Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Swiney Bros podcast. My name's Toby,
And I'm Seth.
and we are the Swiney Bros.
We welcome you to the Swiney Bros podcast.
So this is episode 18 of the podcast. I told you last time I didn't know what I was going to title it, and today, well, it's going to be the NFL Draft Preview, because that is tomorrow. Today is Wednesday, and we have a lot going on. So without further ado, the Swiney Bros are back. When the Swiney Bros are back, good things happen in the NFL world, or bad things happen, because it's your favorite time of the day, breaking news.
Good morning, Swiney Bros Nation. Today is April the 22nd, 2026, the day before the first round of the NFL Draft. Got a lot of cool breaking news. Nothing really too wild and crazy, but I got a lot of information to cover, so let's get started. In Nashville, Tennessee, the Tennessee Titans, last year's #1 pick Cam Ward is on schedule in his rehab process after injuring his throwing shoulder in January and could take part in the Tennessee Titans June minicamp. More to follow on that later. Oh, buddy, here we go. The paycheck is coming out. Will Anderson signed a 3-year, $150 million extension. Ooh. That makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. The deal includes a $134 million guarantee for him with the Houston Texans. Congratulations to him. Wow. Good defensive piece that you want to keep. On the other side of the coin, Arizona Cardinals incumbent starting quarterback Jacoby Brissett is not attending the start of the team's offseason program as he awaits a new deal. Interesting. Oh, here we go. Draft week blockbuster trade. If you haven't heard it by now, you're going to hear it today. The Giants are trading their they did trade their 3-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence to the Bengals in a deal that will include the 10th overall pick going to the Giants. The Bengals trade for Dexter Lawrence is the first time in the common draft era since dating back to 1966 that the Bengals have ever traded a top 10 pick for a player. The first time a player has been traded without any additional compensation for a haul that included a top 10 pick was when the Vikings traded Randy Moss to the Raiders in 2005 in an exchange for a haul that included the 7th overall pick that year.
Wow.
Compensation is now expected after Dexter Lawrence passed his physical. The trade has now become official, and he is signing a 1-year, $28 million contract extension with the Bengals. Here we go. A name that's been brought up in everybody's mouth for the last several weeks and even months. The Eagles remain open to trading A.J. Brown. The Patriots remain highly interested in acquiring the star receiver, and conversations are expected to resume shortly on or before June the 1st, likely culminating a deal per league sources. I wonder why that is. I wonder if Mike Vrabel has anything to do with that. We shall see. Steelers left tackle Broderick Jones suffered a setback to the neck injury he sustained last season and is scheduled to be examined this week to determine whether he will be ready for training camp or the start of the season. So I will be keeping tabs on that. Oh, buddy, here's another big paycheck move. 49ers and 12-time Pro Bowler left tackle Trent Williams reached an agreement on a 2-year, $50 million contract extension that now contractually ties him to San Francisco through the 2027 season. That was a good move. Good move. Got to pay your big man. Got to have them. They're the wheelhouse of the team. Oh, no surprise here. Colts general manager Chris Ballard told reporters that cornerback Kenny Moore II and quarterback Anthony Richards Sr. have requested trades, and neither is attending the voluntary off-season workout program. Oh, another big paycheck move. Here we go. Brandon Aubrey and the Dallas Cowboys have reached an agreement on a deal that will make Brandon Aubrey the highest paid kicker in NFL history. The 4-year extension makes Aubrey the first kicker to earn $7 million per year and receive $20 million guaranteed.
Shoo.
Man, the golden leg. You got to pay the golden leg. I'm telling you, when you have a good kicker that can come down and sink the game for you, that he needs to be compensated. Oh, this shouldn't even be news, but here we go. After spending time in rehab, Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua was back with the team for the first day of its off-season program. I'm on my last page here. We'll wind this down. Colts wide receiver Alec Pierce recently underwent surgery after playing through a nagging ankle pain for much of last season and will be sidelined during offseason workouts, per General Manager Chris Ballard.
Dang, they really, he really waited for the contract to come through for that one, huh?
No doubt. Dallas Cowboys. As the draft draws closer and teams fill out their rosters, former Cowboys quarterback Will Grier is signing with Carolina, where he started his NFL career in 2019. Grier now will join a quarterback room that includes Bryce Young and Kenny Pickett. This is an interesting headline right here for me. I thought that his was over, but we'll see. A boost for Baltimore during draft week. Ravens defensive tackle Nnamdi Madubuike, who suffered a season-ending injury to his neck in week 2 of last season, underwent neck surgery last week that left his doctors believing that he will be able to resume playing this season. From the start of 2023 until he was placed on injured reserve on September 27th, Madubuike's 21.5 sacks were the most among NFL defensive tackles. His 69 career quarterback hits are the most by a Ravens player since 2020. So hoping that he gets everything situated and is able to come back to play. And my last little tidbit, my favorite news that I got all week, I'm saving it for last. Mike Tomlin is headed to NBC and Football Night in America to take Tony Dungy's spot on the crew. Looking forward to that. Love that. And that's all that I have for breaking news for today.
Just one little extra tidbit. I know we may have discussed it before. It's older news now, but Jalen Waddle was sent to the Denver Broncos. I'm extremely excited about that. I'll discuss that more later when we talk about draft picks. And the news with A.J. Brown, man, could be microwaveable related. Who knows? Maybe he needs to get educated about that one. If you know, you know. You don't, you don't. But anyways, guess what? That means it's time for the meat and potatoes. The NFL draft. Now, just a disclaimer before anyone jumps into this. We don't keep up with a whole lot of college football. I keep up with it a little more than Seth does, but I primarily am a Tennessee Vols fan, so I keep related to everything Tennessee Volunteers. If I gave you a complete extensive list of every single draft pick in the NFL draft, we have no idea. So we're only doing the first round, and even then, the first round is just speculation, because at the end of the day, you just have no idea who anyone's going to draft. So we're going to go over the team's needs, who we think they should draft, what they've already done to fill in some holes, and what they need for the future of their franchise. And of course, starting off, the most talked about related move recently was the signing of Kirk Cousins to the Raiders. And so starting off with the Las Vegas Raiders, they have had plenty of projections, and of course, many people across the NFL still think that they're going to go with Fernando Mendoza. Do we think that's a great idea? Absolutely not. Seth, why is that a terrible idea?
Well, here's my thought process, okay? You got Kirk Cousins tied to the Raiders franchise for the next 5 years, and he didn't come at a cheap price either. Fernando Mendoza seems like he's one of the number 1 prospects for the draft, top 5. But I think that if you're going to sign Kirk Cousins to that amount of money for 5 years, I think that you should get a 5-year investment out of that. I don't see anything wrong with drafting a quarterback to sit behind him and let him mentor him, especially, you got Tom Brady in the mix here, and we all know what kind of quarterback Tom Brady is, but I think that's just absolute foolish to pay somebody. It makes more sense from the Jets' perspective, who signed Geno Smith for 1 year. When you sign a man like Kirk Cousins and pay him $176 million for the next 5 years to use your number 1 draft pick on Fernando Mendoza, that's just a waste to me, especially when you have other needs, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, another decent wide receiver, a cornerback. You just got Ashton Genty, and you just signed Kirk Cousins, so why not get some, offensive line help, maybe another wide receiver for Kirk Cousins? I just think it's, I don't like it.
No, I understand. And, of course, that's not to say that there's all bad things going on with the Raiders, despite their whole fiasco surrounding Max Crosby. They still have Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, Max Crosby going on. They've got, of course, new head coach Clint Kubiak reigning, so you'd have to expect good things. And, of course, their second-year general manager, There's a lot going on, and of course the Raiders have plenty of draft picks, so I mean it's not like this is the only thing to go about. But on other sides of the pitch, if they don't go with Fernando Mendoza, I mean they could easily pursue a center, they could pursue linebackers, they could pursue a defensive end. They have a lot of holes they need to fill, and it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make logical sense after you sign Kirk Cousins to that big of a deal for that long to just waste a first pick immediately on a quarterback.
I mean, they've made really good offensive line moves. I think that them getting Tyler Linderbaum was a really good move for the center, and then they also signed Spencer Buford for the guard. So that was a step in the right direction, but I think that they could do a whole lot more to help this Raiders offense than draft Fernando Mendoza. I do have him on my mock draft as going to the Raiders for that to be their pick, but I think that they could do something a lot better to help their team than that.
I wholeheartedly agree. So, of course, speaking of the wonderful New York Jets hold the second pick in the NFL draft, and this one has been a bit of a big question mark because they had trades for Geno Smith and Mika Fitzpatrick. They've signed veterans Demario Davis, Nashawn Wright. They've been adding a few holes and filling a few holes after they traded away Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner, for those who are not familiar about that. Their general manager has expressed his excitement for the opportunities that the Jets have in front of them because obviously there's a lot of holes that they need to fill. New York's actions and free agencies have kind of made their strategy a little bit clear that they're focusing on probably an edge or wide receiver. And personally, I feel like the best option for them would probably be a wide receiver, no?
Well, it depends on how they want to suit their other draft pick because they have 2 first-round draft picks. They have the second pick, and then they pick again at 16. So my thought process is take the best defensive player that you can on your first pick, and then on the second, circle back and get a wide receiver. But, I mean, even if you did it the other way, wide receiver first and then edge. But, I mean, if I'm looking for that edge rusher, I'm going to try to get Arvell Reese if he's on the board.
Yep.
Go ahead and take him right then and there. Then circle back around on my 16th pick and take a wide receiver. But, they need both. And really, to be honest with you, I'm hoping to see the Jets in the other rounds take some cornerback help because they really need – they're the only team in the NFL last year that did not have a single interception. And that should really bother you, especially with Aaron Glenn being the defensive man that he is. Like, I would like to see that. But no, if I would go for, somebody like Arvell Reese's caliber, maybe David Bailey, somebody that's going to attack on the defense. But yes, actually, they do need a wide receiver group because, Garrett Wilson is good. And, they did sign Adonai Mitchell as well and John Mechie. But, I don't know that I would say that those guys are like supreme number 2 wide receivers.
I would definitely agree with that. Arvell Reese is a fantastic outside linebacker out of Ohio State. He's been projected by numerous NFL analysts to go number 2 to the Jets. It just makes a little too much sense, especially with his versatility. I mean, he would easily fit in with flexibility in that 3-4 scheme that the Jets like to run. Just in terms of wide receivers, I mean, it's pretty difficult to know who's going to be left by the time that the Jets are there at 16. A good target for them would be Mekhi Lemon from USC. I mean, he's the Bletnikoff Award winner. He's one of the best, if not the best, receivers available in the college football. So it's kind of hard to think, is this guy really going to be available at 16th? But I would like to see him because I think him paired up with Garrett Wilson in the slot would be.
No, I don't think Mekhi Lemon will be available at 16th, but there will be other wide receiver options on the table.
Exactly.
But it just depends on which way they want to go there. And they might, being, the New York Jets, go a completely different route. Like,
it's all about priorities, We think they need defense. Maybe they want to pick offense first. I mean, it's just the joys of the NFL draft.
But you can't tell me that Arvell Reese and Demario Davis would not be a deadly duo.
Exactly. So, of course, another team with some big question marks, especially Seth mentioned in the breaking news, is the Arizona Cardinals. This one is a little bit of a picky situation. They just had head coach Jonathan Gannon departed. He said no longer. 3-14 record didn't do so well, especially with the talent they had. They did battle with a lot of injuries. They're pretty much looking for a complete roster restoration, if you'd like to say that.
No doubt.
The Cardinals obviously elected to move on from Kyler Murray as they work through their upcoming rebuild, and with a lot of draft picks, but only one pick in the first round, this one is arguably one of their most important picks, and General Manager Austin Fort said they want the best player available. So when teams say they want the best player available, who are you going with and what are you picking? You know,
I mean, there is rumors that they want to try to take Jeremiah Love, but they need a quarterback. That would be a good Fernando Mendoza pickup right there, quarterback. They need offensive line help. They need edge help. They need defensive linemen and linebackers. I mean, they did sign Elijah Wilkinson on their offensive line, so that was a really good addition to their depth there for that. But, you know, they really need somebody that's going to do this team some good. Like you said, they went 3-14 last year. They're just in a complete rebuild stage all the way around.
Yeah.
Roster, management, the whole shebang. So, I don't know, like, do you want somebody offensively in the first round or do you want somebody defensively? Do they take Jeremiah Love even though that they have Trey Benson and the other two wide receivers, Emery Demercado, and what was the other guy's name? It left my brain. Anyway, they're sitting pretty good at running back. Even James Conner coming back, which they drafted Trey Benson to replace James Conner. So, I don't know. Jeremiah Love doesn't make a lot of sense to me for that pick. I mean, there is rumors, but that doesn't make sense to me that they would take him. I mean, you know, they might take a quarterback to sit under, but, I mean, if I would look for somebody like a good offensive lineman or maybe, you know, somebody like David Bailey's going to just jump off the line.
Yeah, I mean, David Bailey, an edge out of Texas Tech, he is projected to be an absolute top 10 pick. Some people have projected him as going high as number 2 to the Jets for some draft boards. He would easily fit in very well. I think their money picks these first few rounds should be defense, offensive tackle specifically. I mean,
but see, the best thing you can do to help your offense is to have a good defense.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how we think. Not every general manager thinks that way. But curious to see what Arizona decides to do because they do have a second pick right after the first round. They've got pick 34. So they'll still be able to add some good depth, but it's pretty crucial, that first pick, especially for this team with new head coach Mike LaFleur. The good old Tennessee Titans, man. Oh, man. We had a question asked. It kind of slipped us. I had mentioned it a little bit before, and it had kind of slipped under the radar just because we had a lot going on in the episode. But we were asked what we thought of the new Tennessee Titans uniforms.
Oh, yeah.
How are we feeling about those?
Well, I like the colors because they're going back to the Oilers' roots. I don't like the logo. The logo does not scream Titan to me. But, you know, I'm not a designer. I have no say-so. I loved the Titan sword.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's a Titan. What's a Titan without a sword? I do like for those of you that don't know your state history, if you look at the Tennessee Titans logo with the 3 stars, that is Tennessee history because on our state flag, we have 3 white stars in a dark blue circle. So I did like that fact that they paid homage to Tennessee. But I think it would be a little bit cooler if it had like a sword or maybe like instead of a circle, it was like a shield or something. But I do love the color scheme. The color scheme is awesome.
Yeah, I would pretty much agree with that. I think the colors are really cool. I love that the NFL is starting to get back into like highlighting their throwback uniforms, finally. I really wasn't a big fan of the logo, very similar to Seth, but I do think the colors, the uniforms were a fresh change, especially. But unfortunately, changing their uniforms isn't going to replace all of the things that they lost over the season, including just a terrible record. They departed their head coach. They've got new head coach in. They've got Brian Dable in there. They've got a lot of things good going on for them. But let's look at the losses. They lost starting tight end. I do not know how to pronounce his name. Chig Okongo, I think. We'll go with that. Starting offensive guard, Kevin Zeitler. Starting defensive edge, Arden Key. Starting defensive tackle, Sebastian Joseph Day. Daryl Baker Jr., Corey Levin, and Van Jefferson. Quite a few losses. The Titans need a lot of help. They stacked their coaching staff with a lot of bald people. but they need a lot of help. They need an edge. They need a wide receiver. They need a running back. They need an interior offensive lineman. I mean, they need pretty much everything.
Yeah, they got the variety platter going on right now.
And some people specifically have projected that the Titans are aggressively pursuing Jeremiah Love.
I think that's a great call.
I also think that's a great call. I mean, you don't have a lot of depth in that position anyways, and who you signed in, Pollard coming in, it didn't really do that much for your team.
I know a lot of people have been really wanting the Titans to trade down or up, to take more linemen because that's something that they need. But I've been thinking about this all week. The biggest thing that Cam Ward needs is he needs an outlet. He needs some help. And Tony Pollard's just not cutting the mustard anymore. Calvin Ridley's not cutting the mustard anymore. I think that sure, they need some offensive line help, like you said, but, I mean, heck, if you take Jeremiah Love here with the 4th pick, that's somebody that you can give the ball off the run, somebody that you can do check passes to, somebody that is going to give him a little bit of relief. But, see, that's the biggest thing. He was the number 1 pick last year. You're going to you want this guy to be your franchise quarterback. So the best thing that you can do for your team is develop this guy, give him the best help that he can get.
Absolutely.
I think it's a very smart move to take Jeremiah Love. The only other thing that I know that might be different is maybe take a wide receiver, somebody like Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, somebody like that caliber. But, buddy, if you got the number 4 pick in the draft and you got the top running back prospects on the board, why would you not take him?
Exactly.
You got one of the best quarterback prospects last year.
Yep.
Get that best running back prospect this
duo.
year. And, focus on – I don't know how many draft picks that the Titans have this year.
I think
they got 3, don't they?
Through how many rounds? Because
the whole draft.
through the whole entire draft, they have 9.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Take Jeremiah Love and then build your team for the rest of the draft, fill in the spots that you need. But to me, that's the smart choice to me.
Yep. No, I would definitely agree with that, especially with as much as they've lost and, with the new head coach, new coordinators, etc. Of course, Robert Saleh was a defensive coordinator, so I wonder if that's going to have a play. I'm thinking maybe running back, Jeremiah Love gets in early, 2nd round, maybe like a wide receiver. Like
you
Seth
saw
said.
what Brian Dable did with Saquon Barkley when he was in New York.
Exactly. And I think throughout, periodically, you're going to see them just filling in good players, not like top tier in the draft, but just good players in positions of need, like their edge, their offensive linemen, wide receivers. They really have a lot of.
But I'm just here to tell you, in my opinion, let the scrutiny begin. The NFL Combine is a sham. It is a sham, and it is not accurate. And anybody that believes that doesn't know Tom Brady. So you can't always go by this guy's 40-yard dash times. You can't go by how many times this guy did bench press for over 300 pounds. There's so much talent that people don't even consider in the later rounds. 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, just prime players, those diamonds in the rough that people don't even want to consider because they're not in the top round. But there's plenty of talent that Tennessee can grab out there this year.
Guess what? I wrote an article about how that is ruining the NFL draft related to the NFL Combine. So if you want to check it out, it's linked down below. #ad. Now for number 5, another team with what would we say is probably the most dysfunctional team of 2025 is the New York Giants. Coming in at round 5, the meltdown in Dallas, the 4th quarter collapse against the Broncos, 5 losses in games where they led by double digits. It's been rough for the New York Giants, but there is a few good things on the side of things, is that, of course, they are having returning people from injuries like Malik Neighbors and Cam Scatterbo, just to name a couple people. However, they also have John Harbaugh coming in. Can you believe that? So, the roster's far from complete, and they only have 3 selections in the first 4 rounds to pick up and clean up things, so they don't really have a lot of options here, so whatever they do pick, it better be daggum good. They added Isaiah Likely, veteran linebacker Tremaine Edmonds, 2 high upside receivers in Darnell Mooney and Calvin Austin III, and they also addressed a little bit of secondary depth in free agency signing. So with that being said, the list of need is still long for this Giants. Who are they targeting with their first pick?
Okay, now this is just my opinion. based on the needs that they have. Like you said, they've made a lot of it. They did Darnell Mooney. They also signed Daniel Falele for their offensive line. They need offensive line help. They need cornerback help, and they need running back help. If I was New York, I would be looking at taking Mansour Delane from LSU for my number 5 pick because they're getting a pick again at 10. And I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about the 10th pick now, since we're talking about the Giants. They need offensive line help and they need cornerback help.
Yep.
Everybody knows Harbaugh likes to take his secondary in the first round.
Yep.
So, I don't know how often that NFL coaches interchange safeties and cornerbacks. Like, if you got somebody that plays safety, are you going to want to keep them in safety, or are you going to try to put them at cornerback? I would assume you're going to keep them at safety if they're a safety and cornerback at quarterback.
Yeah.
So the smart choice for me for the Giants is to take Mansour Delane at 5 for their cornerback to address that situation. And here we go. I've been practicing this all morning. I'm not really good at Polynesian names. But at the 10th spot of the draft for my offensive line, I would take Oliva Vanga Yawani from Penn State.
Got it.
Absolutely, that's what I would take, because you're gonna get both sides of the coin, because you're gonna address a defensive with Mansour Delane, and then you're gonna get a good offensive guard from Penn State. I mean, that's solid to me.
Yep.
But,
I definitely agree with that. And a lot of people, unfortunately, out of ill taste, just solely out of his combine results, have projected the Giants to take Sonny Styles at 5. And I'm going to be honest, I think that would be the worst pick that they could make. Sonny Styles is a good player, but his draft stock completely shot up after the combine. It wasn't anything of football IQ or anything like that increased his stock. And so I really hope don't make that choice just because of that, because I think that would be a very poor choice indeed.
I think that they have bigger needs than that.
Exactly. So, guess what? The Cleveland Browns are making history by converting their dog pound into a doggy daycare with the way that things have been going. 3 starting quarterbacks, one of whom is followed by a camera crew, a new head coach who sent defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz packing, and the remaining defensive player of the year, Myles Garrett, has been ghosting the team because of so many issues. It's a long list of continual heartache for being a Cleveland faithful Browns fan. However, not all hope is lost. The Browns signed guard Zion Johnson on a 3-year, $49.5 million deal.
Smart.
Additionally, their trade for tackle Titus Howard from the Texans solidified a desperate offensive line, and also the quick signing of Quincy Williams to replace Devin Bush, the only defensive starter who entered free agency. The Browns' position of need is pretty large. Understanding the crucial role of a new head coach, their general manager Andrew Berry knows that it's been fast and furious getting ready for the NFL draft. With a pitiful wide receiver room and an offensive line that is starting anew, the Browns have got to fill some holes. The question is, who do they fill first?
Okay. They signed 1 offensive tackle. They signed 2 guards, and then they signed 1 that could be a center or a guard, whichever way they want to play it. So they've added plenty of additions to their offensive line, which is great. Very good. Can you ever have too many good offensive line? No. But here's my thought process on it. You have got the number 6 pick of the NFL draft. Why are you not going to take Carnell Tate with your number 6 pick? That is the best choice that they can make right there, because they got Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson. They've got, their quarterback love triangle going on right now. Buddy, who do they have that's a star wide receiver that's just that absolute playmaker besides their tight end, Harold Fannin Jr.?
Yeah.
To me, the obvious choice here is to take Carnell Tate and get that wide receiver number 1. Quinshon Judkins, Harold Fannin Jr. come out swinging in that offense.
Yep.
That's my take on it.
And, of course, for a little bit of context, the Browns, after a little bit of trading, do also own the 24th pick in the NFL draft in the first round, mind you. So they've got a pick at 6 and a pick at 24. Some people have estimated that they go with 2 wide receivers in the draft. I'm more leaning along the lines that they're going to obviously go with a wide receiver at 6, and I'm kind of feeling that they're going to go with an offensive tackle.
That's what I got
at 24th. I really have been keeping an eye on this conversation. I like to keep up with the Browns, and 2 names have been floating around specifically, but more names in general. They've talked to a bucket load of offensive linemen, so take this with a grain of salt. But for me personally, who I watched out of college, especially at Georgia, was Monroe Freeling and Caleb Lomu out of Utah.
Do you think they'll still be there?
Well, that's
At
the
24?
problem. So Caleb Lomu probably not. Monroe Freeling, I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things that what are the teams in between the 6th and the 24th pick? What are they aiming for? Because he's projected to be a top 20 pick, and he's undoubtedly going to go in the first round. But will he fall to the 24th pick because there's 4 teams above that decide to go a different route with their first picks? It's all speculation.
Yeah.
But if he is there, the Browns would be stupid not to draft him.
Well, see, I've got the Browns taking Carnell Tate with their first pick, but then I got him taking Max Ihonachor from Arizona State.
Another good one, yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I think that's the smartest move for him. Wide receiver first, then get that offensive lineman second, and really solidify your offense this year.
Undoubtedly so. Of course, the number 7 also unveiling, more so teasing their new uniforms are the Washington Commanders. Oh boy. After a miserable 5-12 season, the Washington Commanders look to regain the magic that even got them to the conference championship game in 2024. The issues were clear. The roster was old and not talented enough, truthfully. The objective for the Commanders this season has been to get faster, younger, and stronger. With several signings, they've kind of completed this objective. But their draft picks are slim and far in between. The Commanders' position of need is pretty in-depth. Let's just list a few. Cornerback, safety, edge, linebacker, center, wide receiver, running back. I mean, they need quite a bit of help, and they don't have the draft picks to really back that up. So, at number 7 in the draft, who do they target?
Well, they added Rashad White from the Buccaneers. That was a really good pickup for them. They got the Titans tight end. That was a good pickup for them.
Yep.
To me, having this number 7 pick in the draft, they need to get a wide receiver. Big time. You got not wide receiver, cornerback.
Yep.
Or safety. I've got him taking Caleb Downs I think that's the best choice that they can make sitting at 7 if Harbaugh doesn't take Downs. I'm not sure because, it could go either way. But I think that's one of the best choices that they could make. Get a solid, defensive. The only other way is maybe take a wide receiver because they need a wide receiver to complement Terry McLaurin because let's just be honest. With Luke McCaffrey, De'Ami Brown, Van Jefferson, Jalen Lane, and Traylon Burks, they're not getting it done. But, take you a decent defensive back or take you a wide receiver. That's really the best choices, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation for the Commanders and fans alike because, unfortunately, because of previous signings and trades, etc., they don't have a lot of draft picks. I don't even think they have a pick in the second round. I have to go back and look, but I think they don't have a pick until round 370-something. So their first pick's pretty daggone crucial. I will say Caleb Downs going at that spot is one of the more secured. You just kind of have to imagine they're going to go with that unless someone else takes him. And it's been argued that that's one of the most guaranteed picks in the draft. But again, it's all speculation at the end of the day.
They pick 7th, 71st in the 3rd, 147th in 5,
golly,
187 in the 6th round, 209 in the 6th round, and 223rd in the 7th.
Yikes. It's not very good. I mean, it's good because they can pick up some secondary depth, but that's not good because they're not going to have a lot of options in between then and really what they want.
The only other choice I could see him taking there, besides Caleb Downs, is Mekhi Lemon. Just depends on which way they want to go.
Which way they want to go, right.
So another team who finished not so bad, but had some very up and down moments. The New Orleans Saints finished last in the NFC South with a 6-11 record. The fans and franchise are not really in panic mode, I would say, but they definitely need some help. Longtime executive vice president and general manager Mickey Loomis has got to capitalize in this draft if the New Orleans Saints want to reemerge. And of course, what is the biggest news of the New Orleans Saints of the offseason? Probably the signing of Travis Etienne Jr., one of the most shocking, in my opinion, of the offseason. With the 8th pick in the NFL draft, they still have needs to address, and they cannot accomplish it all in one draft, in my opinion, but they could get off to a great start. The question is, what are they prioritizing in the first round?
Well, they signed Noah Fant to their tight end spot, so that was a good pickup. They signed a guard, David Edwards, to a 4-year deal, so that was good for that. To me, the obvious choice here is because they got rid of, Rashid Shaheed.
Yep.
They got Chris Olave out there with nobody else to back him up. So to me, I think they take Mekhi Lemon at if he's still on the board.
Still on the board.
I would take him because, they've already solidified that they're going to put Tyler in the quarterback spot. They got Chris Olave. The only other thing, they got rid of Alontae Taylor.
Yep.
I don't understand that one, but whatever. And then they're not sure if Cam Jordan's going to come back. But to me, they don't have DeMario Davis anymore. But to me, it's wide receiver. Wide receiver. Just go ahead and just get that number 2 guy to complement Chris Olave and come out swinging hard.
I definitely agree with that. The Saints have a lot of work to do and not a whole lot of draft picks to back it up. There was talks of, I think his name is Omar Cooper out of Indiana, them targeting him in round 2 of the draft as well in case they don't get that wide receiver, that star receiver that they want in the first round. But we will see. We will see. Of course, the number 9, the nasty old, yucky old Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs never quite put it together last season. A terrible ACL tear for Patrick Mahomes kind of capped an underwhelming season. Despite the grumblings around the fandom, a much better result just didn't really seem comprehensible with the lack of talent around Mahomes. With the departure of Isaiah Pacheco to the Chiefs, they added Kenneth Walker III. Travis Kelce also re-signed a 1-year deal, which I don't think anyone is very happy about. They want to see him gone in the NFL, at least I do. They do have 2 picks in the first round, one at number 9 and one at 29. Their general manager has a simple yet vital outlook on the draft, saying stick to that old mantra and take the best player available. So we've heard that twice now from these general managers. Of course, they have positions of need in numerous categories, and the big question marks is who do they pursue first? There's been a couple high talented names thrown around there. There's been talks of David Bailey if he's available at number 9. There's also been talks of Colton Hood out of Tennessee, the cornerback. Personally, from my perspective, I think they seriously should be pursuing a cornerback in the first round.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
they got rid of them all.
Yeah. I mean, they just don't like holding them for whatever reason. They just don't like keeping them. Why? Why?
I still don't believe why they traded Trent McDuffie at all. To me, that's what they need. They need a cornerback. Steve Spagnuolo is cornerback driven. But I've got him taking Jermod McCoy with their pick.
Another solid one.
But yeah, absolutely. I think, or they could shock the world if he's still on the board and take Kenyon Sadiq for a tight end. Because Travis Kelce ain't going to be there forever. I'm honestly surprised he's come back this year. But
yeah,
that's my thoughts on it. They need cornerbacks because they've got rid of every cornerback that they've had. Unless they're going to try to address that later on, But I say cornerback, or they take that good tight end and go ahead and get Travis Kelce's replacement in there.
It's possible. Definitely possible. I don't like talking about the Chiefs. We'll just hurry along. But you guys got enough. You guys got enough information to hold you over for that one now. Moving on to a little bit more of an interesting team with some big question marks around them. The Miami Dolphins. They finished with a 7-10 record, missed the playoffs due to a tumultuous amount of reasons. And Miami's roster took a pretty big hit when they released Tua, Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb, and eventually traded away Jalen Waddle to my Broncos. So, with the incoming Malik Willis this offseason, they've got also 2 picks in the first round, pick 11 and pick 30, which they got from the Broncos. So, unfortunately, my Broncos don't draft in the first round. Their positions of need is a little bit extensive as well. They could definitely use a wide receiver, could definitely use a cornerback, a safety, an offensive lineman, an edge.
Yeah, they're in that rebuild stage too.
They need a lot. So there's been a few names thrown around that they could target in the first round. Who do you think they should prioritize immediately?
To me, the obvious choice for me, just because it's smart and this is something a lot of people just overlook. If he's on the board, I don't know that he goes, if he even makes it that far. But if Francis Mauigoa is still on the board, offensive tackle from Miami, that is probably one of the best picks that you could make. Because number one, that's going to, keep the door open for Devon Achane, for the run game. It's going to protect Malik Willis for 2, and then circle back around if he's still on the board, which I think he should be. When they come back to draft round for pick 30, take Omar Cooper. So that you're getting 2 good offensive players. You're getting a offensive tackle, and then on the next pick, you're getting a wide receiver because they need both. But I don't know. You can't leave somebody like Francis Mauigoa on the board, in my opinion.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I absolutely agree with that.
That's a lot of teams' problems is they don't want to invest in offensive linemen.
Yep.
And if they would, you would see things so much differently.
Yep. Tom Brady logic right there, buddy. Dude restructured his contract so many times to get good offensive linemen. He knows ball. Moving on to the Los Angeles Rams. The big question mark here. The Los Angeles Rams suffered a loss to the eventual Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks in their conference championship game.
No,
And
not yet. They're pick number 13.
did I skip one?
Yeah.
Oh, I skipped. Whoops. Hold on. Hold
You
the
skipped
phone.
number 12.
I skipped the Dallas Cowboys. How could I ever do that? Oh, my goodness. How could I ever do that? The 2025 Dallas Cowboys, one of the most talented teams who had one of the poorest results. Well, they were really talented, at least on one side of the field. The offense ranked among the best in the NFL. However, this team scored just as many points as it also gave up. Pick any defensive stat, and the Cowboys were probably at the bottom of it, if not in the top 5 of the bottom, especially without star Micah Parsons. So, the Cowboys draft needs, they have 1 pick at number 12, and they also have 1 pick at number 20 from the Green Bay Packers. Interesting. So, they could easily go for a double whammy here.
That was part of the Micah Parsons trade.
The other question mark for Dallas obviously comes at receiver. Although Dallas opted to franchise tag George Pickens, Dallas could potentially look to draft a future starter as well. But realistically, they definitely need defensive help. So I'm just going to say they shouldn't even look at wide receivers for quite a while. Of course, arguably, their 2 top needs would probably be cornerback, linebacker, and edge. So who are the Cowboys going for?
Well, Dallas does not have an offensive problem, like you said. Like they're running on all cylinders for the offense. Defense is where they're struggling.
Yep.
Because they don't need wide receivers. And I know there's been a lot of controversy about the George Pickens franchise tag, but how many players like Chuba Hubbard get that big contract and then they just fizzle out and they don't do anything? And that's what the Cowboys are trying to prevent with George Pickens. I don't think that it's that they don't want to keep him around. It's like, okay, show me that you're hungry for this.
Mm-hmm.
Show me that you want to be here. So absolutely, I think first pick, Sonny Styles. Sonny Styles. Get somebody that's going to get in there, and he might be one of those Johnny Manziel guys that everybody's just hyping up too much, but Dallas needs to vamp up their defense the best that they can. And with their 20th pick, I've got them taking Cassius Howell, the edge from Texas A&M.
Solid. 2
solid picks for the defense. But that's their bottom line. If they can get their defense in order, I think that we'll see a completely different team in the NFC East this year because it's not an offensive problem.
Yep. Undoubtedly so. Now back to the Los Angeles Rams, because I totally meant to do that. So, the Rams lost to the Super Bowl champion Seahawks, but because of some previous trades and the trade with the Falcons, they are finding themselves at round 1, pick 13. They also landed star cornerback Trent McDuffie, as we spoke of earlier. The Rams will have 7 picks in the entirety of the 2026 NFL draft, but only 3 of them in the first round. So they're going to have to be pretty particular with what they have. But like Seth has mentioned, the Rams do have a balanced team, but they need some fresh talent, especially with the incoming age of Devontae Adams. So it's pretty hard to think that they wouldn't try to aggressively focus on wide receiver in the first round. Or, potentially, here goes the joy of offense and defense, an inside linebacker. Who do you choose? Who do you pursue? Or even a quarterback?
Well, see, you're going to laugh at me because I'm going a completely
Oh,
different
boy.
direction. Like I said, okay, the logical thing here would be to get a wide receiver because Devontae Adams is getting older. They've got Puka.
They do.
He's pretty much solidified his role there, unless he just pulls a Antonio Brown with all this crazy mess that's going on with him.
Yep.
But people don't always do the logical thing. And like you were talking about earlier, they might even possibly be looking for another quarterback situation to sit behind Matthew Stafford and eventually take his place. But I have the Rams taking Reuben Bain Jr. with their pick.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that one, but that's not a bad pick at all, actually.
I think it's a smart pick. They do need somebody good on the offensive side for that. And if he's on the board, I think it's the obvious choice. But like I said, I mean, this is just me. I'm just sad,
Speculation.
But that's who I would take.
That's
and
a
then
valid pick.
I would try to find a wide receiver later on. Because there's going to be plenty to pull from.
Oh,
like
yeah,
I
of
said,
course.
Everybody acts like if you don't take somebody in the first round, your life is over. But no, I mean, if you can get these stud offensive linemen and these stud defensive linemen in the first round, then take them.
Yeah.
Because that is the cream of the crop for the offensive linemen and defensive linemen.
Oh, absolutely.
That is the one thing I will give the first round. If you're a big man and you're there, you're the best.
Yep.
And take them.
Without a doubt. The Rams aren't exactly in the worst position of any team, especially considering they just lost an NFC Championship and then they have an early pick in the first round. That's pretty good for all seasons. Another team that was close to sneaking into the postseason, but unfortunately could not due to a lot of injuries, the Baltimore Ravens. However, it's probably better that their effort loop wide right at the time expired because it did help their draft stock. Baltimore does have a quite extensive list of issues on offense. They're massively one-dimensional, usually being held together by the magic of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, who arguably had one of his worst seasons last season. After finally getting their stuff sorted between the Max Crosby drama and signing Trey Hendrickson, here's what the Ravens are working with going into the draft. They only have one pick in the first round, one pick in the second round, and one pick in the third round. So they're continuously going to have a bit of things going on. But in round 5, they have 4 picks. So just keep that in mind based on if you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect the Ravens to draft that person. They have a lot of secondary picks going on into this. So the Ravens' positions of need is a little bit extensive. Nothing too crazy. They could kind of go multiple ways. They could go with a guard. They could go with a wide receiver. They could go with a cornerback. They could go with a defensive back, inside offensive lineman. I mean, it's pretty extensive. Who do you think they target first round?
Well, there is tight end needs there. Like you said, I mean, it's just kind of like a little bit of a buffet. Like, they're not in dire need, but they did lose Isaiah Likely, but they gave Mark Andrews the big contract. So that tells me they're not worried about taking a tight end.
Yep.
To me, Spencer Fano is the best choice there, because eventually, they're going to need to replace Derrick Henry. I know nobody's talking about that, but Derrick Henry is going to have to be replaced.
Yep.
Lamar Jackson might not be there very much longer. I think his contract runs out after this year, doesn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
So you're going to need that good, solid interior lineman there to keep things rolling for the future. So I got him taking him.
Solid pick. I will just mention this just for giggles. For their round 2, they are projected. There's been a lot of talks that Chris Brazzell out of Tennessee, the tall wide receiver, explosive wide receiver, has been communicating heavily with the Ravens. That is the most recent report I've heard.
That's something they need too.
So obviously we know the Ravens like to go for those wide receivers in that first and second round as well. So that's something to keep an eye on. Just speculation I've heard under the radar, talks around the league. Another team that's in the first half of the season was an MVP-led Baker Mayfield, and the second half of the season turned into Teletubbies. Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers collapsed beneath them, and 2026 looms this year that they kind of have to put everything back together. Entering the season, the Buccaneers will have to fill the major void left by former 2-time All-Pro wide receiver Mike Evans, who left for the San Francisco 49ers. And they are also missing running back Bucky Irving, who we mentioned earlier was traded away. So, with this being said, the Buccaneers did add a couple key additions. Kenneth Gainwell at running back was a very solid pickup. Linebacker Alex Anzalone and safety Miles Killebrew.
They also lost Jarnell Dean, Levante David, and obviously Mike Evans. Positions of need is a little bit of extensive for the Buccaneers as well, but they do have quite a few draft picks going in through every single round. They've got several back-to-back, close to back-to-back in between round 4 and 5. So the key draft targets here, who would you pick up for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Oh, boy.
Oh, I have the Buccaneers taking edge rusher Akeem Mesidor.
Ooh. Wow. Edge rusher. I mean, that's arguably considered their second highest position of needs. That's a pretty good pick, in my opinion, I would say. Pretty good indeed. Wow.
But I mean, that's one of the biggest problems that they have right now is their pass rush is terrible.
Awful.
So to me, that's a solid choice.
No, I absolutely agree. The Buccaneers, not entirely similar to the Cowboys, as their defense wasn't as awful, but their pass rush was abysmal. I think if they went with anything on their defensive line or linebackers, etc., just to give them a little bit extra of pressure would go a tremendously long way for this team. Oh, man, the other team, the Heartbreak City. Me and Seth continuously had faith in this team, maybe me a little bit more than Seth did, and all we did was continuously get let down. And no, I'm not talking about the New York Jets. We already talked about their 16th pick. I'm talking about the Detroit Lions. Goodness gracious, what's happening here? Oh, boy. Although they won't have a third-round pick due to last year's trade with the Jaguars, the Lions have 4 selections in the first 4 rounds, so they have a little bit of leeway to get some room. They're arguably biggest positions of need. This is all speculation, just looking at what happened. With left tackle Taylor Decker's retirement and center Graham Glasgow's release, Detroit definitely needs some help on the offensive line. They also could use some help on the edge. Why do so many teams need help on the edge? And defensive line quarterback. The Lions will definitely need to find replacements for old players like defensive lineman Roy Lopez and cornerback Amik Robertson. They've lost a lot of people, and they're not replacing them very well. So who do you pick in the first round?
Well, this is all speculative to me, and like I said, you don't never know which teams are going to go. But they have made a lot of offensive signings, more than they have the defensive signings, and they really need somebody to complement Aiden Hutchinson.
Oh yeah.
So I've got him taking Kedrick Fault, edge rusher from Auburn, at that pick.
Solid. Same as well. Literally same as well.
Don't know that that'll happen, but to me, that's one of the best moves that they could take. So if you got him and Aiden Hutchinson both coming at you, that's really going to shut down some offenses big time.
Wholeheartedly agree. The Lions need some work. They need some work to get back to their status.
Because they're another one of those Cowboys teams. I'm not going to say that the Lions defense is garbage.
Yeah.
But they don't need much on the offense.
No,
they're sitting pretty good on the offense.
A complete opposite teams, if we're talking about their production. The Minnesota Vikings were fantastic on defense last year, and their offense was atrocious. Could they have been one of the biggest what-ifs of the 2025 NFL season? Possibly. They let quarterback Sam Darnold walk, and now he's a Super Bowl champion. The Vikings are crying about it. So they will navigate the 2026 draft with, guess what, an interim general manager. With an injury-prone J.J. McCarthy or newly acquired Kyler Murray, they're both injury-prone. The Vikings' short-term outlook is just kind of uncertain at best. After swinging and missing frequently in recent years, Minnesota has to repair an aging roster with a strong rebound draft. But they only have 1 pick in the first round at pick 18, so it's kind of that middle of the pack. Who are you really trying to go for? A few options potentially, especially on offense, you have to think they might target, especially with running backs, Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones hitting the wrong side of 30, and Jordan Mason kind of getting there, but we don't really know what's happening there. Cornerback position is a little bit rough. Interior defensive lineman's also a little bit rough. Everywhere's just a little bit rough for this team. What do they go for?
I don't know, because they need help in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
And you want your first pick to really count when you're taking a first-round pick, because, number one, that's going to be your most expensive pick. And then if you don't make the right pick, you're going to be scrutinized for the whole season. Oh my goodness! This is just me, because I think that their defense is pretty solid. Has a little bit of holes in it, but I think that And you're gonna be like, Seth, what's wrong with you? You keep saying this. I've got him taking Zion Young from Missouri for the edge rusher.
That's not bad. Not a bad pick.
And I think we skipped the Jets number 16 pick. I have them taking wide receiver Avion Terrell, by the way, at 16. Jets Arvell Reset to Avion Terrell at 16. But Zion Young is not going to go undrafted. I definitely think that he will be drafted in the first round.
I definitely agree with that. The Minnesota Vikings, honestly, this draft is kind of the biggest question mark for me because they haven't really said much about what they're targeting. They've talked to basically every position on the field, it feels like. So I'm curious to see who they go with.
But also, on the other side of the coin, I don't know how many teams are really just screaming for a tight end. But I'll say it again. If Sadiq is on the board, Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon, that'd be a really smart choice for them to make as well, because Tyler Hawkinson just ain't cutting the mustard. No offense. Get him out of there and get some new blood in there. Get you a Tyler Warren kind of tight end up there. So I don't know. Either one of those would be a smart choice. But like I said, I don't know who all's in the market for a tight end, and they've got him projected as number 11 overall. So I don't know either way.
After a rocky start to their 2025 season, the Carolina Panthers rallied to reach the playoffs behind record-setting production from Rico Dowdle and improved consistency from quarterback Bryce Young. Their season obviously ended with a close loss to the Rams. This set the stage for a 2026 push. Dan Morgan attacked free agency, adding linebacker Devin Lloyd and edge rusher Jalen Phillips. The Panthers' positions of need is a little bit extensive, and I'm just going to throw this one out there because I haven't hardly ever seen him get talked about until finally he had a better combine, which I had my eye on him again. I'm just going to go outright and say the Panthers should draft a safety with their first pick, and I'm going with Dylan Thieneman, a safety out of Oregon.
Not bad.
Big gamble pick on my part, but
Not
had to
bad.
throw that out there.
I've got a different position than you do, but this is all speculative. I think one of the biggest needs offensively, they do need a running back. They're not going to get a running back because they put all their eggs in Chuba Hubbard. He really snaked him on that one bad. So they're not, you can forget the running back, that's not going to happen. But I think one of the biggest needs offensively, after going to the game when we went to Charlotte last year and watched the Bills destroy the Panthers, I think the biggest thing they need is they needed a wide receiver to complement Ted McMillan and to help Bryce Young out. So I have the Panthers taking Denzel Boston from Washington.
Ooh, that's a good pick. That's a really good pick. Probably Denzel Boston's not I wouldn't say he's an underlooked receiver in the draft, but he would definitely be one of those receivers you could snag at this late part of the round one draft. That's a good solid pick. For sake of time constraints, running a little over, the Dallas Cowboys have another pick at 20th. Who do they pick at 20? If you don't have anyone, that's fine.
No, hold on, I'm getting there. I got to back up to that page. Sorry,
we're a little crushed behind time. I was watching a little too late, and
I got him taking Cassius Howard.
Cassius Howard, buddy, you're a Dallas Cowboy. 21, the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll jump into this. If teams have multiple picks and we didn't briefly brush over it, we will just for sake of time. The Pittsburgh Steelers ended their season with a disappointing 30-6 loss in the NFL wildcard round and still have not won a playoff game since 2017. Oof. After the season, the departure of Mike Tomlin was a gut-wrenching loss for many devoted fans, but under Mike McCarthy, a new era of Steelers football is underway. Steelers only have one pick in the first round, pick number 21. The Steelers have quite a few options to address their diverse needs between quarterback, safety, wide receiver, offensive line, and a couple others. Who are they targeting?
Monroe Freeling, what a pick, what a pick indeed. You can never go wrong with one of the big, beefy, good offensive linemen. The question is, will he be there? Maybe not. But if he's on the board,
he's
they'd be
on the
dumb
board
for not taking him.
And they would indeed. Moving on to a team that I also don't like talking about, but we'll do it anyways. The Los Angeles Chargers finished their second year under Jim Harbaugh and Joe Horton nearly the same way as their first in 2024. Both seasons, the Chargers experienced first-round playoff exits.
Chargers advanced as far as they did despite both starting tackles missing most of the season. In 2026, the Chargers have a solid advantage, currently holding the third most cap space in the league. Can you believe that? The Chargers are lacking a strong veteran presence in a few positions that should be addressed in this year's draft. The question is, what do they address first?
To me, the biggest problem, if you watched any Chargers game last night, last season, there was no offensive line. And, every time Justin Herbert took a snap, he was about going down. So I think the biggest move that the Chargers could make would be drafting Caden Proctor.
Good, solid pick. I also have Caden Proctor at that. When you look at that, brother chemistry going on. At number 23, the Philadelphia Eagles. Are they losing A.J. Brown? Who knows? They endured a rough 2025 season. Poor coaching, injuries, and a season full of inconsistency gave fans concern about the future of this franchise. After a loss to the 49ers in the wildcard round, attention has turned to free agency and the draft, especially after Reed Blankenship's departure. Offensive tackle Lane Johnson's nearing retirement, and of course they lost Jalen Phillips to Carolina. So what are the Eagles going to target here? You have to think it's probably going to be on the defensive side, unless it's an offensive lineman or tight end. Who do they go for in the first round?
I've got him taking Caleb Lomu.
Caleb Lomu, offensive tackle, another solid pick. I would definitely agree with that. I would say if they don't pick an offensive line in this first pick, it would probably have to be either a safety or an edge. I personally picked on the defensive side a safety out of Toledo, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Very solid. If you'd never watched him, which you probably didn't, how many people watch Toledo football? He's very strong. He's a very good player, and I think he would fit in nicely on the Eagles defense. At number 24, the Cleveland Browns. We mentioned a little bit. Who are the Browns taking at 24?
The guy from Arizona State.
The guy from Arizona State.
Sorry,
the wide receiver or the...
Max E. Honachor.
Max E. Honachor, that guy. I was not going to be able to pronounce that anyways. Shout out the Cleveland Browns.
I think that's the biggest move that they can make. If they take Carnell Tate at 1, get that other stud offensive lineman, and solidify your offense, and I think that they won't.
Undoubtedly so. Who is next? Because my document just crashed.
Next up at 25, we got the Chicago Bears.
Oh, the Chicago Bears. Don't mind if I do. The Chicago Bears were something of a surprise for the league this season. First-year head coach Ben Johnson turned around this team for the better until they collapsed in playoffs, but it was a great effort from Caleb Williams, who showed his strengths. The Bears' positions of need, kind of arguably safety. They lost Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker, and they did sign Seattle's Kobe Bryant, but they could probably still need at least one more. They did acquire new linebacker Devin Bush alongside TJ Edwards, and they also lost Tremaine Edmonds. At the edge, they're a little bit slack, but I mean, honestly, they could fill in quite a few other positions. Who are they targeting?
To me, I've got him taking the big stud defensive tackle from the Ohio State, Caden McDonald.
Ooh. Never a bad pick. We have a lot. This is probably going to be a very defensive-heavy first round, in my opinion, just based off of the needs of, quite a few of these teams.
Do you agree or disagree with that?
I would definitely agree with it. I think there's been a few talks of them potentially pursuing Zion Young as well later on. Not later on, in the first round, later in the first round with their 25th pick. I could see either one of those, honestly. I think it's just going to really come down to who's available at the end of the day, but I definitely think that's probably one of their best options available. Moving on to Seth's team, the Buffalo Bills have been knocking on the door for 7 straight years and still cannot make a Super Bowl in the Josh Allen era. Along with the 2024 MVP, they also have the 2025 rushing champion James Cook, but they also lack a true go-to wide receiver. Can they fill that with DJ Moore? Time will tell. The Bills' position of need, even after the trade with DJ Moore, they probably could use at least one more good wide receiver. They did add Bradley Chubb via free agency, and they could also probably use a solid edge and linebacker. So the question is, who are they targeting in this first round?
Not going to lie, I loved the Bradley Chubb signing. That was very exciting for me. Now, like you said, they need another wide receiver. What I'm hoping for is that DJ Moore fills that wide receiver 1 spot and that Khalil Shakir really just steps up and takes that wide receiver 2 spot. They need they got a lot of defensive holes that they need to
Yes.
fix. However, with the first pick, I have them taking Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon, offensive guard,
Solid.
because they need another piece on the offensive line because they have lost, some offensive line depth pretty bad. But that's who I got them taking.
I would say if they go with the offensive lineman route, it would not surprise me at all. I would also say if they do go for a wide receiver, if he's still available, it wouldn't shock me if they did draft Denzel Boston if he's around. I know we've mentioned him earlier. I'm just throwing that around
But
there.
then you also got, Zachariah Branch still might be on the board at that
possible.
time from Georgia. So, and then you got, did you say someone was going to get Brazel? Or did you?
I mentioned Chris Brazel as a potential. I think that was back in round 20.
That would be a good wide receiver choice.
It would, because he's Josh Allen needs that like tall receiver who can go up and make a play. You don't really have that right now. I don't even know if I consider DJ Moore that type of receiver. If they were to go in the second round, I know we're not talking about the second round, but it wouldn't surprise me if I've heard a few talks that they've been talking about Logan Fano, a defensive end out of Utah, who's projected to go in the second round. Wouldn't surprise me if the Bills targeted him. But anyways, moving on, just throwing tidbits out there because why not? 27, the San Francisco 49ers. They exceeded expectations in 2025 as one of the most miraculous teams to make a run. It's Shanahan magic, I guess. I don't know. They traded their third-round pick to acquire, I don't know how to pronounce that, from the Dallas Cowboys. General manager John Lynch was comfortable parting with the selection largely because the team holds 4 fourth-round picks, but they also still have 1 pick in the first round. So, 49ers position of need. They've been active in free agency, filling 2 of the team's biggest needs in wide receiver and defensive tackle. And, of course, they also got Dre Greenlaw back, a cornerback back, and then they got, somebody recent on offensive line. It'll come back to me. So, who are they targeting in the first round?
I've got them taking defensive tackle from Clemson, Peter Woods.
Ooh, Peter Woods. We have not mentioned Peter Woods yet. If anyone watches Clemson football, he has got an eye on him to see he would be a very explosive addition to this team. I like that pick. I also had him. Wow, we're 3 for 3.
They re-signed
Trent Williams? Was that it?
Hold
No.
on. Yeah.
Trent Williams, yeah. For the 49ers, right?
Hold on. No,
Are we
that's
tripping?
I'm trying to get.
Or was that a
there.
different team?
No, that was the Arizona. Yeah,
Oh.
Trent Williams. You're right. 49ers. Trent Williams, 2-year, $50 million contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
We know what we're doing, guys. Don't worry.
I've got like a million things up over here. Sorry.
I know. Me too. Me too. Of course, moving along to the Houston Texans. My, oh my. The narrative surrounding the Houston Texans all season long was that they had a generational defense but would be held back in the end by their offense. And that proved to be true. So, the Texans draft pick, they only have 1 pick in the first round. They have 2 in the second round. Let's see. The general manager called any speculation about CJ Stroud trade moronic. He then proceeded to get ahead of the team's problems and trade for Lions running back David Montgomery, as well as sign 2 offensive line pieces in Braden Smith and Wyatt Teller. The offense has been shaped up and not had a lot of shaping, unfortunately, with the hopeful resurgence of Tank Dell and Nico Collins trying to reemerge. That's his significance. What do the Texans target in this?
Okay, well, there's a big demand for SEC talent. And, they just re-signed their big defensive man there, Will Anderson. I have the Texans taken to compliment him, Caleb Banks, defensive tackle from Florida.
Yeah, honestly, I think the Texans, as good as their defense was, it still wasn't perfect, and that it was just overshadowed by how terrible their offense was. So it wouldn't surprise me if they went for a defensive end. Also wouldn't surprise me if they went for an offensive tackle. And I've also heard talks that they might be targeting a tight end. I know tight ends kind of get the short end of the stick a lot when we talk about teams and their draft stocks. But it is a potential. At round 29, or pick 29, we've got the Kansas City Chiefs, and at pick 30, we've got the Miami Dolphins, both of whom are getting their second picks in the first round. Any ideas or guesses on who they're targeting?
Yeah, let me get that really quick. Okay, I've got the Chiefs taking Brandon Cisse at 29.
Good pick.
Very much need there. And I've got the Dolphins taking Omar Cooper Jr. at 30.
Solid pick.
Because that's going to address 2 of their needs if, they take
Crucial needs.
they take Francis Mauigoa and then take Omar Cooper Jr.
Last but not least, of course, the last two remaining teams would be the two teams who were in the Super Bowl. The New England Patriots have a buttload of picks in this year's draft, but only one in the first round. New England has also spent aggressively in free agency to patch their immediate needs, even this offseason after they moved on from Stephon Diggs. They quickly filled those gaps by signing Romeo Doubs. And, of course, they're also still in discussion with A.J. Brown. Don't know what's going to happen there. The Patriots' positions of need. Guess what? Shocking. They also need an edge rusher. Who had ever thought? They also need an inside offensive lineman.
Bad.
An offensive tackle, and a tight end. So who in the world are the Patriots going to draft?
I've got the Patriots taking offensive guard from Texas A&M, Chase Basantis, because anybody that watched that game, poor Drake May, didn't have a chance to do anything. And, I mean, that's just part of having young offensive linemen. But to me, that would be the best move for them is him. Get a stud offensive guard from the SEC to boost that and give you some more help.
Undoubtedly so. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I mean, it was just a constant. Drake May was running for his life, screaming like a kid. So, hopefully they get that. Last but not least, it goes without saying that the Seahawks had an incredible season. One of the most well-rounded teams in recent memory, and it clearly showed in their dominance in both the playoffs and the regular season, except in matchups against the Rams. Don't forget that. But the key word is were, with offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak becoming the next head coach of the Raiders, the departure of Kenneth Walker III, and they also had Rick Woolen leave for Philadelphia and a few other losses across their coaching staff and the roster. They only have 4 picks in this year's draft across all 7 rounds. So the Seahawks do need a little bit of roster depth. They could probably use a wide receiver, a running back, a cornerback, and, oh my gosh, could you guess it, an edge rusher. Who would have thought? Key draft targets for the Seahawks. I have no idea.
Okay, here's my thoughts on it, okay? I don't know this for a fact. We don't know that they need another running back. But I don't think that the Seahawks make a pick at 32. I think the Seahawks trade their pick to, try to get the best bang for their buck. If they do make a pick, I've got them taking
Jadarian Price.
No, Chris Johnson, quarterback from San Diego State. But however, I think that the Seahawks are going to trade their first round pick to somebody. I don't know who, but I think that they're really trying hard to trade that pick to get some more picks. That's what I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It wouldn't surprise me at all, especially considering, like I said, they only have 4 picks across the entirety of that. So guess what? That wraps up the 2026 NFL draft projections for just the first round. Can you imagine this would be a 7-hour episode? So, last but not least, the most fun part of the day, the part that always people love and hate on us the most, it seems like, is NFL fun facts and trivia. You want to go first?
Sure. All right. My trivia question is draft related, wouldn't you know?
Who would have thought?
Okay. This is a 2-answer, so if you can get one of them, then it's fine.
All right, I
I'll
probably
give it to you. Which NFL teams have had the most number 1 draft picks in NFL history?
Oh, my God.
There are 2 answers. So if you can get one of them, I'll give you credit for it.
I'm going to say the Cleveland Browns and the Arizona Cardinals.
I'm sorry, both of those are incorrect. The 2 teams with the most number 1 picks in NFL history would be the Colts, Indianapolis and Baltimore, and the Rams. Both teams are tied for the most number 1 overall draft picks in NFL history with 7 each.
Wow.
The Colts had a number 1 pick in 1955, 1967, 83, 90, 92, 98, and 2012. The Rams had 1938, 1952, 1960, 1963, 1997, and 2010 and 2016. Now, coming in third place was the Arizona Cardinals / Chicago Cardinals with 5. And then pulling up the rear was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with 5 as well. So
I never would have guessed that in years. I would have guessed pretty much every other team except those teams. So, goes to show how good I am at NFL trivia, right? My NFL trivia question, I debated on which one I was going to make my trivia question because they could both be good trivia questions, and they're both also good fun facts. I will ask you this one. Who in the NFL holds the record for the most receiving yards in NFL history with a total of 22,895 receiving yards?
my gosh, 22,000.
And I will give you the only hint. You definitely probably have heard our father and our uncle speak about this player numerous times. I would assume.
Okay, so old school, back in the day, 22,000 yards. I'm going to go with one of the best ones of the era that comes to mind and go with Jerry Rice.
That is correct!
Finally! I have succeeded!
Oh, man. Jerry
you know what they
Rice.
say, even a blind squirrel find a nut every now and then.
Jerry Rice played in the NFL from 1985 to 2004 with a brief attempt to play in 2005. He began his professional football career after being selected by the San Francisco 49ers in the first round of the 1985 NFL Draft and played with them until 2000, winning 3 Super Bowls. He was widely recognized for his exceptional performances, leading the league in receiving yards and touchdowns multiple times.
Nice. Good question. Good question.
And last but not least, guess what? We always end on a high note. Fun facts. And it's related to the NFL Draft. If you've made it this far, please like the video. Thank you. This school has contributed the most athletes into the NFL Draft with 532. And it is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Gosh. Wow.
At number 2 was Ohio State with, I think, 520.
Wow.
I do not have the full list.
Interesting. Very
I
interesting.
thought that was crazy. So guess what? After the longest episode of the Swiney Bros podcast to date, we finally wrapped this up. And of course, Sadie is ready to get wrapped up as well. So if you liked what you saw, please like the video, subscribe, share it with your grandma, watch it on the toilet. I don't care what you do. But as always, thank you so much for supporting the Swiney Bros podcast. And we will see you whatever the next episode is for whatever it is about. God bless.